That moment when you want to totally not be consistent, that moment when you want to change your focus is a moment of that pivotal shift that if you stick with it, the water will boil over and you will have the results that you want.
Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur, the podcast that helps you expand your reach and convert that reach into clients so you can lead your tribe with confidence and create change in the world while living the life you desire. And now your host, certified business coach and consultant, Mariana Ruiz.
Want to increase your sales without so much hustle? Oh my gosh. Let's talk about doing funnels. Funnels are like the thing right now, but whether it's challenge, a tripwire, a webinar, or even getting people on the phone, guess what? All of that is the same. It's a sales process and what some people call funnels, okay? And I want to help you with your sales process because here's the thing. When you can really master and improve that process, you will get more sales in your business. Normally inside of my 6-month coaching program, what I do is I actually look at everything that my clients do. I look at all of their copy, all of their emails, everything that they're doing inside of a launch or outside of a launch. And really, I want to bring that element to a small intensive for you. So what I want to do is offer you the opportunity for me to look at all of your emails, all of your copy, whether it's a challenge, a funnel, a webinar, or a sales call. I will actually listen to your sales call. Yeah, you heard that right. Okay, so in order to get this amazing offer, it's called a funnel intensive. You can find it at impactdrivenentrepreneur.com/work-with-me. You can purchase there right away, or if you want to get on the phone and just make sure it's a good fit for both of us, I'd be happy to chat with you. Let's optimize that sales process so that you can start generating more sales in your business without the grind. Hey there, and welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about 9 of the biggest takeaways that I had in 2017 from 2xing my income and 4xing my profit margin. Let's dig right into it. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about where I was at the end of last year so that you can kind of see where I was and where I am today, and also give you some fuel and some food for thought so that you can make 2018 the best year that it can be for you, meaning 2019 is still going to be amazing. Okay, so where I was at the end of 2016. So in about August, July 2016, I sold out my one-on-one coaching program. At that time, the program was weekly meetings. I had zero support at home, not meaning like my husband wasn't supportive. He was working 12-hour shifts, an hour away. So that was 14 hours a day he was gone. And I had no nanny. I had no daycare. I had nothing. My kids were 2 kids under 2. And I had been building this business, just nap times and bedtimes. And I was so proud of that because it was intense, and yet I did it to where like I filled up my coaching practice. And at that time, around July, August, I had brought on 11 clients, and it was entirely too much for the workload I had already going on at home. So that actually leads me to my first lesson and what I decided to kind of really hone in on at the beginning of 2017. And that is lifestyle and family are first, meaning when you're setting your goals for the year, it's like really important that you're crystal clear about what you want that lifestyle to look like so that you can actually reach your goals and not go insane, right? Because at that time, when I was reaching burnout zone, it was actually like I had even considered not doing coaching and not doing this whole work from home thing because it was feeling so heavy. And I can't imagine what it would be like if I would have quit at that time, because I'm so grateful to myself for not quitting at that time when it was super rough. And also I'm really glad that I learned this lesson because it's a marriage, right? It's a marriage between the lifestyle, the family, and the business. And if you're strategic and if you're intentional, and that's going to actually be my word for 2018 is a lot more intentionality. But if I am more intentional, I am better about making sure that I'm actually creating time for myself, making sure that I'm putting my family first, and that making sure that I'm getting the support in the different areas that I need to in order to bring on clients or in order to best serve my clients or do the things that I want to do. So at the end of 2016, I ended up bringing on a nanny. And we went through a couple of nannies before we found one that was great, but she ended up graduating in 2017. So about midway through 2017, we ended up having the kids go to full-time daycare. And it was actually really interesting because I hadn't really thought about daycare as an option because my daughter was a preemie. We were told by doctors, like, that's not going to happen. And so for the first 2 years, she was just at home. But then when they went to daycare, it was really an interesting thing because them being out of the house while I was working allowed me to be so much more productive that I had one of my highest months just after they went to daycare. And it was really interesting to not only see the numbers, but also see the peacefulness that I had and how I was finally able to have some quiet time to myself, which I had been wanting really badly. And just like all of this stuff that was really amazing came out of that situation. And I'm going to link back to how that was awesome in a minute with one of the other lessons. So that is really what I wanted to say there is, for me, one of the things that I found out was really important was that having support with my kids was a non-negotiable for me because it was going to give me that time to myself that I really needed and wanted. It's going to give me time to work on my business, and I would be fully able to spend quality time with them when I was with them. So prior to this, I had been kind of like the mom on the laptop a lot. And when it was nap times and bedtimes, that was fine. But then when the client load started to come in, when it was nap times and bedtimes, I was on calls. So then like I was with my kids, but I wasn't actually present with them. And that did not feel good. So I had to find this weird array of circumstances to come to the fact that it's okay for me to either have my kids in daycare or have a nanny or have support with my kids, and that it's not actually taking away from my kids, it's actually giving more to them because I'm able to be more fully present. And that was a really hard thing for me to grasp my head around. And if you're a mom, you can feel that tug at your heartstrings too sometimes. And there's not a perfect cure, right? It's really about what is best for you and how you best operate. So don't ever follow somebody else's way or anything around this topic. It's about your life and creating your life intentionally how you want it. And so whatever that looks like, totally no judgment, right? And having no judgment towards yourself is where it starts. And that can be sometimes the hardest. And then having no judgment towards others, right? Like, somebody else wants to do things differently, that's totally fine for them. But that was a big lesson for me because I was judging myself at everything I was doing. If I had my kids in daycare, I was upset that I had them. If I didn't have them, I was upset because I didn't have them, right? So it was just coming more to peace with this piece of it and knowing that this is one of those big rocks that I had to put in place and map out and be strategic about with the rest of my plan. So as the rest of 2016 was rolling around, I realized that I wanted to focus more on some leveraged income programs because I had sold one-on-one out. And although I was getting support at home through the nanny and I was rehiring my new team member, I wanted to just have more of the leveraged income. And so what ended up happening is that I created a funnel. The first funnel that I created was a very light funnel. I put it on Facebook ads. It was doing great. And it was selling pretty much daily for about a month and a half. And then the price of Facebook ads shot way up. And I ended up not being profitable on that funnel. So I had to turn it off. And, people talk about passive income being like this great, amazing thing. And it totally is, but it also doesn't come without work. You still have to work on the marketing side of it. So what I ended up doing is turning off that funnel because it wasn't profitable. And I decided to do a live launch. And if you don't know what a live launch is, or you're not familiar with the product launch formula, it's a formula created by Jeff Walker. And basically it's a very methodical way of ramping up excitement about a program and releasing it for a very short period of time in a live way. And so that's what I decided to do. And I think it was around February-ish of 2017. And when I launched it, I had invested in a lot of things. I had thought, right, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, cool. If I invest in Facebook ads here, and if I invest in having the sales page well, and if I invest in all these things, time, money, energy, all of that, then I'm going to have a good reward on that and it'll be totally worth it. And I didn't have to fill one-on-one, right? That was my thinking. Totally erroneous, okay? Because what ended up happening is that launch totally failed. And by failed, I mean I broke even. Okay, I had sales, but what I had invested in Facebook ads and hiring specialists to help me with it ended up breaking even. And so I quickly realized that I needed to be more strategic about how I was launching things and how I was selling things in my business. And I've done Facebook Lives in the past, but what has worked really well for me in 2017 has been to sell out my one-on-one, but not completely sell out, meaning if my limit is 10, and by the way, if you're like, what is your limit? It kind of depends on what your packages are, how often you talk to people, what is included. And of course, it depends on the clients you end up bringing on. Some of are more needy than others. And so let's say my maximum was going to be 11. So let's say my maximum client load would be 11. What has worked well for me in 2017 is getting to about 9 or 10 clients, doing a launch, and then selling the launch program, which is usually a leveraged income product or passive income product. And then after the launch, usually you also see a spike. And so if you're already full with one-on-one clients, you have a wait list. Or if you have space for a couple more, you can sign those on after your launch. So essentially, it required me to be a lot more strategic and give myself the space to accept one-on-one clients again and really embrace one-on-one coaching again. So I had like almost completely wanted to totally stop doing one-on-one coaching. And then I really missed it. And I had gotten a coaching certification this year and really enjoyed the process. Like I love coaching. I enjoy the process of coaching. I enjoy the closeness from it. And so for me, it was asking myself what I truly wanted and going after it, but in a very strategic way that was both profitable and sustainable. So that also leads me to lesson number 2, which is simplicity is better than complexity. So part of what happened there when I was creating these funnels and I was doing the product launch formula and all of that is that I was getting a little too technical and losing sight of the fact that it could just be really easy. That if I went to sell some one-on-one coaching program, some of my one-on-one coaching program, I could just literally have a phone call and have money in my bank account today, right? But instead I was doing a webinar a week from tomorrow and investing tons of money on Facebook ads and. So I was actually making things way more complicated than they needed to be. Now, I'm not saying I don't do webinars and I'm not saying I don't do launches, but if I had to pick a way, right, where I needed to generate some money, it would be a lot easier to just fill one-on-one. And I got so into the technicalities of complicating funnels that I lost sight of the fact that sometimes simplicity is good and keeping things simple can really go a long way. So the third lesson was the magic of relaunching. So in about May 2017, I did a rebrand. And so I rebranded to Impact Driven Entrepreneurs, and it has been amazing. And so I finally created like a signature program that I was able to relaunch, right? So before we get into the third lesson, right? The third lesson is the magic of relaunching. So I launched this signature program for the first time in the summer of 2017. It's called the Impact Formula. That went with my current branding. And I was at a live event in May and I actually mapped it out with my coach, James Wedmore. And so he had said, okay, let's map it out. This is what it's going to look like. He suggested that I start off with about 6 weeks of group coaching to get people started. And so the first time I launched it, I didn't hire a Facebook ad specialist. I did all my own ads. I didn't spend a ton of money on Facebook ads. And I ended up generating about $1,700 from that. So on the outside, that looks like a really crappy launch, right? But for me, this was actually a big deal because it was proof that like I could do something that was a little more leveraged. I could do something that was leveraged and a little more profitable and not including all the hoops that I had been going towards to get that leveraged and passive income. And so for me, this was a really big deal in my business because it was the beta launch, it was my signature program, and it was profitable because I kept things more simple and also because I really just buckled down with it. I don't know how else to really put it. So it was the beta launch. I had people go through it, and after about 6 weeks, it felt really rushed. And so it was a great experience because, so if you don't know about a beta launch is basically like the first time that you launch a program or product, and you want to run it as beta the first time so that people get the experience of it. It's a lower price point for them, and they can really get a taste for it, and then they give you feedback so that you can adjust your program and really work the program for them. So it's actually like a win-win situation. So when I did the beta launch, I realized it was way too short, it was way too rushed, and it did not feel good. And so I decided to totally change the program up. I reworked the package and I relaunched it just in November. And it was over a $24,000 launch. And so what I want you to gather from this here is that if you've had a launch that did okay, or that, sold, but it wasn't huge, go and relaunch. Go and do it again, because there is a magic in relaunching. And in the past, when I had relaunched under like a different name. So I did a group coaching program before, and I had actually a lot more people. I had like 11 people in my first group program ever. But then when I relaunched it, I renamed it, and it didn't have the traction that this one had. Okay, so the fourth lesson from 2017 was that I can create anything and everything I truly want, and the operative word being truly. So throughout the year, I was still kind of honestly struggling between being overly full with one-on-one clients and also wanting to increase my income, but not work like a maniac. And so there were times that I wanted more clients because I wanted more income. But what ended up happening is I would really struggle to fill those spots up because I didn't actually want clients. I just wanted the income. And so sometimes the money would show up in totally random ways. For example, I ended up selling my washer and dryer after they had been posted for a long time and not selling. Or when I was moving, I wanted a one-on-one client, but of course I was in the process of moving, so I didn't technically want a one-on-one client. And I ended up booking a Facebook ad client that was ready to start working together 2 months down the road, AKA a perfect alignment of what I needed and wanted. And so I think for you, this really goes back to digging in and really asking yourself, what do you truly want, and being really honest and just aligned and trusting yourself that you're going to create that. So if you're still struggling with what do you truly want, I want you to go back to the last episode that I did with Carrie Gavin. I think it was called Asking for and Claiming What You Truly Want. It's episode 29. Go back to that episode because we talked about how to really get into your identifying what you truly want. So lesson number 5 was investments are important. So earlier in this episode, I talked about how the launch that I had done didn't really pan out the way that I wanted to. And so what ended up happening is that I just barely broke even on that launch. And it made me realize that anytime that I'm going to invest in something, I want to make sure that I have 100% conviction about what it is that I'm doing. I'm willing to fully carry out that strategy, and that I have the bandwidth to get the ROI that I wanted. So had I not been so attached to the outcome of that launch, I wonder what would have been different about it, right? So if I didn't, quote unquote, need that money, how would that launch have panned out differently? And that's something that I've been really, really mindful of. And I'm going to be talking more about it next week when I talk with James Prescott. He's coming on next week, and we're going to be talking about being your authentic self. But really, it's important that we use our investments wisely and make sure that we're fully able to dedicate the time, the space, the commitment that we need to get that full ROI from them. And I was so much more intentional about that in 2017 than I was in 2016. I feel like in 2016, I made a lot of investments that I did halfway, right? So programs and courses that I purchased. And in 2017, I was like, let me go back and reuse that strategy, right? Let me go back and get better at running a webinar, because that one of the programs that I invested in 2016 was about webinars. And so I've used that over and over, and I've actually made a lot of money doing webinars, and I've been able to get that full ROI, but it's been down the road. And so I think too, like part of this is not beating yourself up about past investments because they led you to where you are. And that also doesn't mean, just because you didn't have that 6-figure webinar in the first while you were taking the course doesn't mean that you can't get a huge ROI later down the road. And another thing about the bandwidth thing. So I brought somebody onto my team in 2017 to help me with project management. And that didn't quite pan out because I hired her right before moving. So I didn't have the bandwidth to train her. I didn't have the bandwidth to onboard her. And that investment, I feel like could have been so much better. And I would have set her up for success if I would have brought her on when I had like full bandwidth to really train her, full bandwidth to really make sure she knew what she was doing. And, as leaders, it's important that we understand that our team is only going to give us like what we give to them. And that was another lesson, which kind of brings me to lesson number 6, which is all about results-based management. So in 2017, I felt like I was the bottleneck of my business. Basically, I was delegating tasks to everybody. I was giving them so many instructions and step-by-step processes and videos. And that was helpful to a point. But then I had to be aware of and kind of keeping track and following up with everything everyone was doing in the business. And so I've been working with a coach, actually 2 coaches of mine this year, were like, you need to do results-based management. And I really struggled with this because I was like, how can I make somebody responsible for this thing, right? It just seems like so much responsibility. And yet by me keeping that responsibility, I was becoming the bottleneck. And so in the end of 2017 and now going into 2018, we are working on results-based management. So each person on my team has different results that they're working towards, and they can be creative within that to problem solve, to get better, to improve. And it has created such a big improvement in my business and on my team. And a simple example that I'm going to give you here is my VA was doing our podcast notes. And I had a very specific outline. He had HTML code that he could just copy and paste and add my words and blah, 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 blah. And instead, I let him have some wiggle room around this. And I was like, go look at and see what other people are doing and tell us how we can just improve this. And he came back to me with these beautiful little buttons. If you go to my website, you'll be able to see them there. Say like subscribe on Stitcher, subscribe on iTunes, like just little improvements that really do add up in terms of conversions and getting people to do the action that we want, getting it to look aesthetically pleasing, right? All of these things because I let go of some of that control. Now, I'm totally not perfect. This is going to be something I'm going to be working on a lot in 2018. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted as far as how this is going for us. But we've already seen a huge shift in the business by doing things in this way. So lesson number 7 is life is happening for me. So this year I got to write an article on today.com, which was awesome. And I talked about how having my preemie daughter was one of the best things that has happened to me in my life, because it felt like it was something that was happening for me rather than to me. And of course, that's in retrospect. And at the same time, it allowed me to see that retrospectively and get out of victim mode. So I had been living a lot in victim mode, which is basically like, oh my God, all this stuff is happening to me. And the shift was realizing that actually everything was happening for me and that the universe and things are aligning in my favor. And that kind of ties back to one of the other lessons. But I think that it's really important for us to just have this shift out of victim mode and to really enjoy our life. And this has really allowed me not to get so bogged down by things that are happening that feel like I have no control over. Lesson number 8 is confidence matters. And so because confidence allows you to show up and serve. Confidence is what will propel you forward. It will allow you to show up for your people. And if you've been following me on Facebook or inside the Impact Driven Entrepreneurs group, you've seen kind of my journey with Facebook Live. So I was really shy about doing Facebook Lives, especially kind of when they first came out. Now, I had done Periscopes, but when it switched from being Periscope to Facebook Live, I was all over the place confidence-wise. And I struggled with being consistent with Facebook Lives in my Facebook group, and doing them on my business page was almost like, no, that's not going to happen. And this year, I've really embraced Facebook Live. I've embraced doing it on my page. And I even did it on my personal page this week. It was, I think, only the second or third time I'd ever done it on my personal page. And so I think it's important for us to work on our confidence and also always stretch ourselves and remember that whatever we think is scary is only scary for a minute because you haven't been doing it. But as soon as you face that fear, it breeds more confidence. And another thing that I found that really breeds confidence leads to lesson number 9, which is that consistency matters. So consistency in showing up, consistency in following up on the sales process, right? Consistency in the things that you said you were going to do. And this has been a constant thing for me. It's funny because somebody in my Facebook group had said, but you're like super consistent. And I was like, I don't feel like I am, which I think it's important for us. If you are somebody that's a little bit harder on yourself, like me, realize that even if you don't have 100% consistency, people don't always notice that. Okay. But also number 2 is consistency in sticking to the thing you said you were going to do breeds more confidence with yourself. And I think that that's something that if you're struggling with confidence, or like if you're struggling with consistency, take a look at that strange paradox between consistency and confidence, right? And really challenge yourself to stick with what you said you were going to do. And something that's been fun for me is announcing something that I'm going to do and then sticking with it, right? It's so much easier if we have that outside accountability to it. And then also with consistency, I want to talk about, there's a client in one of my masterminds, and she has been consistently posting, and I had a challenge for her that I wanted her to promote the same program. She was kind of like, her focus was jaded all over the place, or scattered is a better word, all over the place. And so I had a challenge for her where she could only promote the same thing for 30 days. And guess what? We're reaching like the pretty much 30-day mark. And she went from literally like, I have nobody in this program to, oh my God, I need to hire help. I need help in my business because I have too many clients. And so it just was such a good reminder that that moment when you want to totally not be consistent, that moment when you want to change your focus is a moment of that pivotal shift that if you stick with it, the water will boil over and you will have the results that you want. And so sticking with it through that time is absolutely critical. So continue to spread your message, continue to get out there and continue to be consistent so that you can serve more people and really truly build that business that you want. So those are the 9 lessons from 2017 that I wanted to share with you. I'm just going to recap them. So number 1 was lifestyle and family is first. Number 2 was simplicity is better than complexity. Number 3 was the magic of relaunching. Number 4 was you create anything and everything you truly want. Number 5 was investments are important. Number 6 is results-based management. Number 7 is life is happening for me, not to me. Number 8 was confidence matters. And number 9 was consistency matters. So now I want to invite you to schedule a call with me because we do have some one-on-one spots open for a brand new program. It's called Rise, Revolutionary Impact Through Selling with Ease. And basically what we're going to be doing is working on your sales skills, your marketing skills, and helping you to really reach more people, sell with integrity and ease and joy, and really service your clients at a deeper level throughout the sales process. A lot of times people come to me and they're unsure how they're going to get clients, unsure how that's all going to look like, and they want more clients, they want more people to serve. And if that's you, I want to invite you again to schedule a discovery call. We'll have the link in the show notes. You can also apply for a complimentary discovery session at impactdrivenentrepreneur.com/strategy. I can't wait to have a personal conversation with you. Have an amazing day. Head on over to impactdrivenentrepreneur.com where you can find an arsenal of videos, blog posts, and previous podcast episodes to help you increase your profit and impact. Again, impactdrivenentrepreneur.com and click on blog. Enjoy.